All right, it is 8:32 past the hour, and we say good morning to Jim Duncan, who is coming to the studio this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Duncan.
Good morning, fellas. It's good
All right,
to
going
be
to get you crawl up on that microphone a little
You
bit.
can bring it to you or however. I usually sit sideways over there. Side saddle, I call it.
Side saddle. You got it.
Get this out of the way.
All right, cool.
All right.
Well, good
Now
morning.
we got him on there because we got you on worldwide video here, so we want everybody to see your pretty
Well,
face.
I'll say
there.
hello to all my friends. It's
Yeah.
great to be here. I got to tell you, last night I was coming back from Randolph County, and the weather wasn't so good, and I hit some black ice with my truck. I almost flipped it. So
my goodness.
It's nice to be on the right side of the grass and be with you guys this morning. So.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I don't care if you got four-wheel, it doesn't work well on ice, does it?
No, it just came up. It was a little bridge, and I came over, and, man, I'll tell you, sat off on the side of the road and said a prayer of thanks. It was not the experience I was hoping for. So, but it's good to be here.
Glad you made it.
You got it.
Well, Jim Duncan, of course, running for District 2 for the U.S. Congress. 5 candidates in this race.
Mm-hmm.
Renee Elmers currently holds the seat, and she's got a lot of hoofbeats behind her trying to run her over and take this seat. And you're one of the ones in there with one of the more stronger portfolios. Tell us a little bit about your candidacy so far.
Well, so far things
Then we'll
are,
get into some specifics.
You got it. Things are going really, really well. 87% of the time, a incumbent wins. And so, I took a really hard look at this with my family before we said, yes, let's go and do it. And so our focus was to what I think was missing in the district, and that's the ability to build a team, to be able to go out and show why the incumbent, make the case why the incumbent needs to be replaced, and make the case why it's you. And the way you do that is to build a team. And we've been really fortunate because we've received a number of endorsements. And the most important endorsement I'm looking for is the voter in the district. So,
well, speaking of that, it's one of the hard parts of a primary is you got to get the turnout, because you get the primary, what I call the gatekeepers that come in. And these are the folks that are retired, primarily. Their portfolio is producing enough money now for them to live on, and they're so afraid to vote for any change whatsoever because it might affect their check. And these are the ones you got to reach to say, I will make it better. Right. But how do you do that?
Steve, as I said, you build a team in an organization, which is what we initially did. And then you do it the old-fashioned way. I have visited, half the firehouses in the entire district. I've been knocking on doors. I get invited into people's living rooms. We've had success in raising money because of our ability to go in and sit down with people and listen. Listening is a skill that's been missing in our district with the incumbent for nearly 5.5 years. And
not just our district.
Well, my focus is this district.
Right.
All right. And so what I've learned is that those people that you're talking about were like me, 6 years ago, I was sitting on my couch moaning and groaning. I went out to become a volunteer with the Republican Party for the first time. And from there, we've been able to build a reputation of someone that not only listens, but brings action to those words. And that's what the citizens are looking for. And particularly the people that you've mentioned. They're concerned about the legacy they're going to be leaving their children. And I share that same concern. And it's time to fight, and we haven't been fighting. The conservative values and the conservative principles that we all hold dear are the solutions to America's problems. One of the endorsements I received was from Eric Erickson, and he said Jim Duncan will put his principles and values ahead of ambition. And our message has been, let me take your voice to Washington, not force Washington's voice on you. And that's what representation means. And we've missed that definition in the district. And quite frankly, I see it as before I became involved with a lot of candidates. I see people running for offices, and you think they're running to be president of the United States. This is the House of Representatives. It's the voice of the people.
The people's house, yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me, I feel like I got I keep my ear on the ground around here and hear what people say a lot. Being on the radio, a lot of people tell me what they think. And one of the things I hear are two things. And we'll get to, I'm going to be a little selfish to get to the business side of things. Small business people who provide the majority of the jobs in this country. The Dodd-Frank Act just basically wiped out their ability to expand at a reasonable rate. I mean, you can get started, you can get small loans, but it used to be, because I used to be a large home builder in Raleigh. I built over 2,000 homes up there, and I could set up construction loans over the phone. I could get things done all along, and government bureaucracy just took the fun away to the point I quit. I sold everything I had, came down here and bought a radio station. Doesn't pay as much, but
you're having fun.
I'm having fun. I'm not going to get up every morning and fight government all day long. But nowadays, though, small businesses, if they want to expand and everything else, you go to the bank. Well, the bank's got all these regulations on them now from Dodd-Frank that says we can take absolutely no risk. Your reputation means nothing. Your past history means nothing to us. The fact that you've always paid back every dime you've ever borrowed with interest, and we never had to pick up a phone and call you for money, means nothing. The only thing that means anything is your financial statement, which we consider to be a lie. Go prove everything on it. Your tax return, which we consider a lie, you got to give us a form to sign that we go verify that's your real tax return and check with the IRS. It's gotten to a point that it's just impossible to expand a business, even if you have a good business.
Yeah, I've met and just knocking on doors, and I've also gone out and met with a lot of small businesses. And you're absolutely right. This all comes back to what is the role of government, and we have.
What would you say it is?
I think it's a limited role, and it is to get out of the way of citizens. I'm on the Jesse Helms board. And we take pride on the fact that free enterprise has freed more people in terms of creativity and innovation. And when government gets in and starts regulating people's ideas and holding them back, waiting for that stamp of approval from a bureaucrat, we're cutting the lifeline of our economy. And you know what? It really ticks me off. Because I see young people, I've met with NC State students, UNC students, Campbell University students, and we've got some great minds and young people ready to go. But they're walking into an environment where I think the statistic is correct. 1/3 of jobs in America require a government license. We've got to get government out of the way. Wow. And look, there's nothing new about these situations. We saw what Ronald Reagan was able to do. But once business is freed up, once citizens are allowed to say, let me add some value to a product, and you say, yeah, I'd like that value. That's the essence of a free enterprise.
Well, let's talk about your platform, because we're not here to discuss mine. All right, a big thing, immigration.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Big issue. One of the things that really concerns me is that.
Oh, by the way, we're speaking with Jim Duncan, because we get new audience every 7 minutes. Right. And so I remind everybody, we're speaking with Jim Duncan, who is candidate for the Republican ticket for 2nd District to the U.S. House. Okay.
Well, thanks.
Immigration.
But, the immigration issue is I hear time and time again everywhere I go, and it's one that concerns me a great deal, because in that whole discussion, we are putting the American citizen, the American worker, not even at the table, and it's disgusting to me that we are putting such a burden on hardworking, tax-paying citizens. If I was in a county just recently that was telling me that the sewer system, because of illegal immigrants, is hurting their infrastructure. So we're putting burdens on our fire, our police departments, our schools. This is not fair, and we don't have an immigration policy today. We need enforcement. Maybe we'll get Donald Trump to build the wall, but we need to secure our country in a time of terrorism. We're turning our back. Sanctuary cities, where did they come from? I'd like to have a sanctuary house where Obamacare doesn't exist. I'd like to see what we can do to really make sense out of our legal immigration.
Now, one of the things, speaking on immigration, we've been talking about it since Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Is that's the problem. It seems like we keep talking about it, nothing ever gets done. We got a gazillion laws on the books, but they don't get enforced.
Well, that's why
Obama grants illegals protective species status. I mean, you can't touch them.
Right.
They come here, and local police don't have the power to arrest them for being here illegally, because they have a wall around them called the federal government.
Yeah, we need zero tolerance for reentry into our system. We should, if you overstay your visa, I think it should be criminalized. People are guests in our country, and we can't find them. Now, that's a problem in the system itself. So I say go back to the basics. We seem to move away from the basics, and that is secure our borders, secure the citizens. Don't put a burden on that hardworking dad that's working two jobs, who I've met, trying to put his son through state. All right, and so I just think that if we get to enforcing our existing laws, getting cooperation between the federal and state officials, we can turn this around. But we can't sit there and start compromising. We've done that in the past. And one of the things that I've seen happen time and time again is that we don't understand our opponents. They're here to eliminate us, and they're using immigration as a vehicle to get that done. We're bringing in a bunch of people that are coming into our country. Who do you think they're going to vote for?
Well,
they're not voting for conservatives.
I call them undocumented Democratic voters.
Yeah, you bet.
They are.
So I get the human nature of this, but before we start worrying about these people that have come here illegally, let's worry about our own citizens today, right now, and let's fight for them. And the time is now, not walking on eggshells. Representative Elmers was the only person, the only Republican to vote against the DeSantis amendment, which would have put a priority to deporting illegal immigrants who've committed serious, heinous crimes like child molestation. And yet, we just sit back and say, oh, okay, we have a representative that did that. No, we need to replace her, and I'm the person to replace her with. That was a slap in the face to every citizen in the 2nd District.
Now, in this campaign, you also talk about parents and how they should be encouraged to make their own choice about how their children should be educated. Elaborate on that.
Well, I don't know who they are, but, we always say they. They in Washington. There are people in Washington that are playing with throttles, involved with education, which is against the Constitution to begin with. But secondly, we've built a wall between the student, the parent, and the teacher. That's not a good formula for me in terms of educating our children for the future. So I just think that parents have a big say and should have a big say in the education of our children. And Common Core does just the opposite. The number of citizens that I've met who have told me that they are homeschooling now because they want the same values that they're teaching at home taught at school. They don't want their children coming home and telling them, well, the teacher said this, or I can't speak about my faith. That's something terribly wrong in our society today. And I have to blame a lot of it on ourselves. I blame it on myself for not fighting. Because you see, the solution isn't the people we send to Washington. They're the representative. The solution is the citizens, the people, to stand up and fight and say that's enough. I got involved because of that. And I have built a team of people that have said enough. We've been able to raise money. We've been able to build that team that's going to execute the will of the people of the district.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm out every day in the public talking to folks. And one of the things, by the way, we're speaking with Jim Duncan, who, of course, is running for U.S. House, seat currently be held by Renee Elmers. We're one of the things I hear over and over again. We elect people they talk to talk, but nothing ever gets done. We've got two houses filled with Republican, and nothing still gets done. Now the House of Representatives has its big weapon. It's called they control 100% of the purse strings.
Right. Steve, there's no shortage of Republicans in Washington.
Right.
That's not the problem. There's no short of experts.
How do we get something done?
We get it done by making a stand. One person, and I call it the power of one. Our campaign is a reflection of what we're going to do in Washington. I have focused initially on building relationships. And that's what you have to do in Washington. In fact, I've started to do that. There are people who want to make a stand. I think of the...
when you say make a stand, in what way?
Well, when it comes to, entitlements, when it comes to our spending problem, right, and how our debt has gotten out of control. When you look at things, if I had a magic wand, we'd get rid of Obamacare. We would get rid of the Export-Import Bank. Where's the federal government coming in and showing favoritisms to corporations? That's not how our system works. No,
well, we can't even pass a budget. I mean, we pass an omnibus bill and instead of a budget.
Right, but what we haven't done is, I've heard Representative Elmer say, we need to have a supermajority in the House, with a supermajority in the Senate and the presidency to get anything done. Well, that's nonsense. That's not what our Constitution calls for.
Right.
You're talking about the power of the purse. Yeah, the president's going to end up vetoing it, but okay, put some stake in the ground.
Right.
Stand up. This is what it means. And then be able to go back and say, look, here's the seeds we planted. Had you gone with our direction, this is what your life would be like. The Democrats are doing it all day long. We're constantly reacting. And guess what? They have failed at everything they've ever touched.
I know that when they shut the government down, that hurt small business in a big way. I felt it immediately with all of a sudden those that buy advertising, all of a sudden the checks stop hitting the post office box. They slowed to a crawl because people were writing me longer because they didn't know what was coming next. And it scared them.
Yes, it does.
And there's some things that government shouldn't be doing, and that's beating us up to get a point across.
And you shouldn't be beat up. And at that time, if you remember, Representative Elmers was talking about her paycheck and how she needed it and all that good stuff. But here's what people have said to me. The federal government is close to them already. Now, today, the person that is a person of faith, they feel the federal government is closed down to them. The single mom that's working real hard, she feels the federal government is closed down. The dad that's putting their children through college. So here's what we can't be afraid of, is someone putting a gun to our head. When you have the power of the purse, you're either going to stand up or go ahead and genuflect at the altar of big government because it's out of control. We need that day of reckoning. And I understand that we'd have to go through some difficult times. But guess what? Put your seatbelt on, because the day of reckoning that we're going to have to deal with because we're avoiding it today is going to be a lot worse than we can imagine.
Well, we're talking with Jim Duncan, who, of course, is running for Congress from the 2nd District. One of the things high up on your platform list here, well, you got strong national defense, and I think everybody's in agreement with that. You got improved cyber capabilities. Talk about that.
Well, I had the opportunity to visit the National Guard headquarters and their emergency center.
Still using floppy disks, are they?
Yeah, no, man. I'll tell you, they had this huge screen, and with a map of the United States, and it looked like missiles coming into our country. And what it was were cyber attacks. Now, there's I guess a large repository of information in St. Louis, because St. Louis was being pounded that day. If you're not taking action today on cybersecurity, you will in the future,
right,
because we're all being hit with it. I think it's a tremendous national security risk that we currently have, and if we don't step up, we're going to see the ramifications of it. We've seen what China has done. And by the way, a lot of those cyber attacks were coming in from the Middle East, and so there's a silent war that's going on. It's going against corporations. I'm a former corporate guy, and part of our business was disaster recovery. And this today is a big piece of what corporations are dealing with.
Which one thing that government would do would be, at least, I know it's tough to catch the person, and I know a lot of this stuff comes from overseas, but just really jack up the penalties for people who plant viruses and destroy people's computers with malware. Life in prison would be too good. I'm serious because it's got to stop, at least within our own borders. I know we got a problem far beyond that.
Yep.
But let's move on. Morale in the Defense Department is the worst shape today that it's been in 5 years. That's on your platform here. Recent efforts to cut military pay and allowances are intolerable. Talk about that.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to probably attend a dozen defense contractor meetings, and I've built relationships with folks there. But our community in the 2nd is made up of a lot of military families. It's made up of retirees from the military. Everybody knows the horror story that's taking place with the VA. But what they don't know is we hear our representatives come back and say, hey, we gave our military a 1% increase in pay. But then they don't tell you about the housing allowance cuts and other cuts at the PX. And it is, we're kind of using our military personnel like a three-card Monte game. And to me, that's deplorable. Is there waste in the Defense Department? You betcha there is. And
it's waste in every department.
And everything, and particularly when a bureaucracy gets that. But here's the crux. We're at war.
Yeah.
We are at war, and we are not prepared. We've lost 151,000 servicemen, 20,000 Air Force personnel, and we are at war. We have Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force Base in our district, and quite frankly, I don't think we're standing up for them. We just lost the 440th, as you know.
Yeah.
And
I tell you what, if they cut Fort Bragg down, this area is dead.
Well,
I mean,
economically it's dead, but even a greater concern is going to be the security of our country. That's
right.
Our 911 force right there. And, we're just not strong enough in how we're bringing this back to the citizens in the district. My focus and my goals are in the 2nd District. I'm not running to be president of the United States.
Right.
All right? I'm running to represent the people here. And our military and military families. I've sat down with Blue Star moms and Gold Star moms. Gold Star moms who are trying to get just a highway named after them are just running into bureaucracy after bureaucracy. We have to have a representative who will speak for them and speak for our retirees. That's very high on our priority in terms of what we'll accomplish.
I got 15 seconds.
You
I'll
bet.
give them to you to tell them why they should vote for Jim Duncan for Congress.
Well, you're going to vote for Jim Duncan for Congress. And by the way, please go to jimfornc.com. I'm a conservative. Our district is conservative. And we do not have a conservative voting record. I will deliver that. We do not have a strategy that understands our opponents. I will deliver a strong strategy. And thirdly, I will show you what it means to be a representative. Listening, showing up, being responsive, matching my actions to my words. And we're going to bring optimism back and encouragement back to the 2nd District.
All right, Jim Duncan for Congress. Thank you very much. What was your website again?
Jim for NC.
All right, check it out and become an educated voter. It's important that you know why you're pulling your lever, all right? And so it goes for this Tuesday. Have yourself a great, safe day. We'll see you back bright and early tomorrow for Hump Day Wednesday. Until then, I'm Steve Leader for Robbie McKenzie. Have a great day, everybody.
Cheers.